And a good Sunday afternoon, everyone. I was about to say Saturday, Ben. I have with me in studio here Ben Levine, the plumber extraordinaire. Welcome to the Real Estate Show, everyone. I'm your host, Terry Kilakos, chartered mortgage broker and president of Northeast Mortgages. Thank you for joining me. In studio, as I said, we have professional plumber Ben Levine from Levine Brothers, who will be chatting about some important plumbing tips for your home. Welcome, Ben.
Thanks for having me, Terry.
Absolutely. How are you doing today?
Fantastic.
Excellent, excellent. As the winter months kind of creep in, I tend to have a lot of plumbing issues and whatnot. Okay, no pun intended there, or whatever. Anything. So it's gonna be a good show. I'm looking forward to it because I'm gonna be learning a lot. Don't forget, you can always join the conversation by calling in with your questions at 514-790-0800 or texting in your questions at 514-800. You can also watch us and comment online at facebook.com/Northeast Mortgages, or those of you who follow me, you can also do the same thing directly on my Facebook page, which is Terry Kilakos' Facebook. So facebook.com/Terry Kilakos. So before we kind of get started about plumbing and all the fun stuff, let's get the boring stuff out of the way. A couple of little market updates. First, this week, there was an announcement that was made on the mortgage front. Forecasts show no increase in 2019 to fixed rates on mortgages. So this is something that's very interesting. In the last, I would say, few months, we've seen this steady decline in the bond market, and this decline is actually at the same level of where we were last year in January. So, but yet the interest rates remain the same. They actually have started to go up a little bit on the 5-year fixed side. So I think that this is going to be an interesting start to the beginning of the year, especially once we start going into the buying season, where the banks are going to start going a little bit crazy, maybe competing against one another. We'll probably end up seeing some of the 5-year fixed rates start to drop off. Maybe some of the 3-year rates as well are going to drop down. The other thing that the Bank of Canada is saying, that due to kind of a lackluster few months of numbers, and some of the projections that they had weren't as accurate as they once thought, they might actually start holding off a little bit on the increases. Now, if you listen to this show long enough, you'll know that I've talked about this before. A lot of economists are pointing to the fact that by 2020, we'll probably be seeing another recession hit Canada. And obviously, if there's a recession that ends up hitting Canada, at that point, the Bank of Canada is going to be forced to scale back on those interest rates. So that's an interesting to see what's going to happen kind of on the horizon, especially going into next year. The other thing is on the real estate front, there are many reasons to be optimistic about real estate. And me and Eleni, we talked about this recently on last week's show, where we kind of went into a little bit how the condo market in Montreal has been kind of going up and whatnot. So this is a report that came out through CMHC recently, where they say, we are cautiously optimistic for Canadian housing markets in 2019. We believe Montreal is likely to benefit from growing interest by foreign buyers in 2019. Unlike Toronto and Vancouver, Montreal has not yet imposed a tax on foreign home buyers. So some transactions that would have landed in Toronto and Vancouver might end up in Montreal because of the tax advantage. Also, CMHC expects a decline in rental vacancy rates in Montreal, resulting from higher demand because of in-migration and favorable economic conditions. CMHC anticipates housing sales and prices of existing homes in Nova Scotia to appreciate in 2019. They as well think that the Atlantic provinces will see the same thing. In all, we are cautiously optimistic for Canadian housing markets in 2019. At the same time, we are mindful of the concerns about the housing market in the U.S. So some interesting little facts about what's going on in the markets right now. I'm looking forward to kind of seeing how it's going to shape up. So we have traffic coming up in a couple of minutes. Before we get there, I just want to introduce our good friend here, Ben, again. Ben, you had graduated originally from Concordia, if I'm not mistaken, you had a bachelor's in commerce, and that was 14 years ago. And then from there, you decided to go into the family business at Levine Brothers and became a professional plumber. Tell us a little bit about the journey.
Well, it kind of started a little bit before I graduated. I remember as a 10-year-old kid, I'd be going with my dad to work, and he'd sent me off with some of the plumbers. And actually, we still have one of the plumbers with us today. He's been with us for 36 years. He taught me my tools, so I'd go along with him, and he'd show me how to install a toilet, and he'd show me what tools to pass him.
Hmm.
And so from the time I was a young kid, I'd be going in to the office. Either I'd work in the stock room or I'd go along to service calls. Really, my baptism by fire in the business was during the ice storm in '98. That was pretty exciting.
Fun times.
Oh, yeah. Everybody else was off of school playing video games, and I was working 14, 16-hour days, literally just helping people protect their homes. So homes that had no power in it, I'd go in and we'd empty out the heating systems, empty out the water lines, and all kinds of plumbers antifreeze in the drains to protect them against freezing. And that was the first half. And then when the power came back on, we'd go back and restore all the heat and all the water in the house. And I worked for 10, 12 days straight, these crazy hours. And really the appreciation that people showed, it really taught me that being a plumber is more than just a plunger.
Hmm.
And it's really about helping people when they need you the most.
That's
And
very cool.
that's really when I got into that side of it. And then once I started business school at Dawson in business classes, everything just clicked all together. So when I went into John Molson School of Business, all of my projects and everything that went towards the small businesses and family businesses and succession plan, really I directed towards going into Levine Brothers.
Very cool. Very cool. So after the break, we're going to be talking a little bit about more plumbing. We're going to talk about issues. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to text us 514-800. If you have any questions as well, you can join the conversation by calling 514-790-0800. And now we're off to Kira Yeager at the traffic center.
There is a slowdown occurring, a couple of slowdowns occurring actually. So the two main issues are Champlain Bridge and westbound Ville Marie. On the Champlain Bridge, you are looking at...
We have a text that just came in. I recently bought a new dishwasher to replace one that wasn't draining properly. Turns out neither does the new one. Our sink drains well, so what could be causing the issue? So
A lot of the issue could be on the connection. It could be sometimes whoever swapped it out didn't actually change the drain hose. So besides that, the water connection, and maybe it's just bad luck, a defective machine.
Okay. Is it possible that, is it a gravity tube or is it a pump that pumps it up?
So first from the bottom, it's a pump that pumps it up, and then it drains by gravity. So if at any point there's gunk and crap and corn and rice that got stuck into that drain, although your sink might be draining properly, the gravity part of it might not be.
Okay,
you guys
cool.
want to
So
answer that on the air?
We'll answer it on the air. Yeah. Okay, I'm giving a shout out to Anne-Marie Ashcroft. There you go. And there's your shout out. Do you want it live? Do you want it on air? Because I could do that as well. Just text me in. She's like, I want a shout out. So we'll go into that text. Levine Plumbing, what is a good drain cleaner to be used throughout the home? So that's a good one too. There's texts they're just flying in.
Yeah, great.
So
You might not go through a single
how am
subject that you
how am I a Montreal small business? The city is now requiring us to. Hi, I am a Montreal small business. Is now requiring us to, at our expense, install water meters. Do you have any idea how much I go in with me cities, diagrams, and requirements for the type of installation, general costs?
That'll be a good one on there.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I've always heard from my relatives about how Mr. Levine's cousin through Seema Levine, although I've never had the pleasure of meeting Ben. It's nice to hear family on the radio. I always get nostalgic when I see a Levine Brothers truck on the road in Montreal. My cousin Val.
Say hi to cousin Paul.
Hi, Val.
All right, so we'll go through all of them.
Seema ended up being a Bennett.
What's that?
Seema ended up being a Bennett.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, my grandfather's sister.
Uh-huh.
Okay, you're back shortly. Who knew there were so many plumbing issues?
Your Toyota dealer before January 2nd to take advantage of this offer. 64-month lease, total of 277 payments.
Kalispera, good afternoon, cousin Kerry from Northern Ireland. What's up, brother?
A lot of family reaching out today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so Anne Marie wants in the radio studio with us.
Unwrap your Mitsubishi today. Get a 2018 Outlander
All right.
HEV or 2019 Eclipse Cross with
Did you share it on your profile?
Oh, yeah. And Levine Brothers, too.
Okay, good.
multi-camera warning system. The Outlander offers smooth quiet drive, big savings on gas, and
It's okay, that's my sister that just commented on your post.
Did she?
Yeah. She said hi.
Hi.
Mitsubishi. Drive your ambition.
Oh, you're back, guys.
Chantal Desjardins and Terry Kilakos, live online and on CJAD 800.
And the texts are coming in fast and furious. I'm like losing. Who would have thought that plumbing would have been such a topic of conversation?
A fun
right?
topic.
Yeah, seriously. All right, let's start with this one. I recently bought a new dishwasher to replace one that wasn't draining properly. Turns out neither does the new one. Our sink drains well, so what could be causing the issue?
A few separate issues at this point. It could be that the whoever swapped out and did the install used the same drain hose from the old dishwasher, and there could be a whole bunch of gunk. A dishwasher has a pump on the bottom. It pumps it up, and then it drains by gravity down. If it's filled with, I don't know, rice, grease, corn, things could get stuck. That could be an issue. Or, on the other hand, it could just be bad luck that you got a defective machine.
Yeah, especially, in my household, I have different schools of thought, right? I have some people where they're going to clean the dishes almost until they're completely clean before loading them into the dishwasher. And I'm the type of person that I just just put it in. It's a dishwasher. It's meant to clean the dishes.
What do you need to clean before you put it in the cleaning machine?
Exactly.
There you
Exactly.
go.
That's my thought process. All right. So we have another one. Guys, if you want, put your names just so that we could identify the text properly. But we have one for Levine Plumbing again. So Levine Plumbing, what is a good drain cleaner to be used throughout the home?
Don't. Anything.
Don't. Okay.
We're talking about a Drano, a liquid plumber, anything like that is made specifically to eat away and unclog your drains. Don't use them.
Really?
It eats away not only at the gunk and the grease and the buildup, but it also eats away at the pipes. Whether it's your old galvanized drains or even plastic drains, it'll wear them out, wear them thin, and you're going to have much bigger problems going forward.
So what would you recommend in a case like that?
Let's say we're looking at a kitchen. Let's say a kitchen sink. I'd recommend first starting with a plunger.
Mm-hmm.
Simple. It's the KISS principle over there. Keep it simple, stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And start with the plunger. I've heard people they mix baking soda with vinegar. There's a whole bunch of different ways online to do it with boiling water after, hot water, not boiling. Sometimes that breaks away the grease to be able to unblock, and after that, call a professional to come and unblock it. We have all kinds of machines that come and snake your drains, and it's the best, most complete way to do it without damaging.
Yeah, we had. I used to live on St. Joseph, right in the plateau in my land, and these pipes, I mean, they were dating back. In some
Original.
yeah, absolutely. And every time we had a clogged drain, I would, you know, I would be cringing every time I would have to pour Drano or anything like that in there because I knew that those pipes were just getting eaten away and eaten away. And, you know, then my mother would come out and she'd be like, "We're going to use the filter, Queen." And that's what we used to use. And they would actually would do the trick because it would like blow like a whole bunch of air into the pipes, and it was beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember those machines, the filter queens, the vacuum cleaners, when they used to when the salespeople you would come to your house, they would actually tell you that you can use it to open your drains, and it
Dare I
worked.
say before my time, Terry?
Was it before your time?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, all right, never mind. I'm showing my age, anyways. Okay. I've always heard, here's another text that just came in. I've always heard from my relatives about how Mr. Levine's cousin, how I'm Mr. Levine's cousin through Seema Levine. Although I've never had the pleasure of meeting Ben, it's nice to hear family on the radio. I always get nostalgic when I see a Levine Brothers truck on the road in Montreal. That's from Val.
Hey, Val.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Seema Levine was my grandfather Jack's sister. She married into the Bennett family.
Wow. So we're talking about like how long is
So
the
so
business?
I'm fourth generation in the company. We've been
Wow.
around since 1922.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal history. My great grandfather was actually, he started off as a blacksmith. My great grandfather Isaac, and he made the metal rims around the wooden tires for the cars a couple of years ago. And when they switched to rubber tires, him and his son Arthur ended up going into business together. Arthur would go into people's homes and uninstall plumbing that was broken, bring it back to the shop. Isaac would fix it, and then Arthur would go and reinstall it.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
What a great story. Here's another one. Hi, I am a Montreal small business. The city is now requiring us, at our expense, to install water meters. Do you have any ideas of how much how much I go in with the city's diagrams and requirements for this type of installation, and what does it generally cost? Sorry, I had to change the wording a little bit because it came in a little bit jumbled.
That's all right.
Yeah.
So those papers that are given by the city, it's a pretty a proud story of mine is that all of the pictures and examples that the city uses is our work. So they came in and took pictures after our work and used it in their brochures and pamphlets to send out.
Interesting.
Although, as much as I asked, they wouldn't credit me on the bottom of the pictures. Go figure.
Shameful. Just
Yeah,
shameful.
seriously.
Yeah.
So what the city is doing is that they're forcing commercial buildings around the island to install water meters. So we've done anywhere from a 3/4 inch, which is a smaller one, up to a 4 inch. And there's a couple of our customers that we had who have 4 inch water meters installed. And we did a shutdown in over one night. In terms of expenses, it really varies, depends on the size of the pipe, obviously, the location, and everything needs to go towards the regulations to the city that the city provides. We're one of the certified companies. We know the regulations. We're familiar with what the inspectors ask of us, and it varies from case to case. Even if it's the same size, there has to be proper access to it. There are so many different variables than I could give on the radio.
So, cost-wise, approximate, like, is there like a range that we can kind of?
Oh, you're gonna call me crazy? Sure, a range I could say from $1,500 up
Okay.
until $20,000.
Okay, it's
How's
a range.
that?
It's a range. Absolutely, absolutely. All right. So after the break, we'll be continuing our discussion with professional plumber Ben Levine about some important plumbing tips you should know when it comes to your home. Stay tuned.
The Real Estate Show is brought to you by Northeast Mortgages.
Do you or someone you know have problems with drugs or alcohol? We can help you. Call Andy's house at 514.
So there's another text that came in, but I wasn't sure. There was another text that came in. I wasn't sure. Osher
Oh, sure.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. There's like an exclamation point afterwards. Oh, sure. Anyways, is that, I don't know if it's a name. I think it's someone's name, but anyway. There was a power outage and my washer started giving me error codes. What stands for slow draining? When I run a test on the machine, it's not draining.
That's really the type of thing to go with a appliance repair. Yeah, manual appliance repair.
Okay.
Each machine is so different.
Okay. You want me to ask it?
Not necessary.
Alright.
We can
The
respond to them.
Flintstones kept losing there because the Swedish band Wilma sublet the house to kept stealing it. Yabba dabba doo. That's from Dan's show.
That's from the trivia show.
Oh my god. I was trying to figure out how that pertained to either of us.
Is there any specific one you want to jump to that you want to cover? Because there seems to be more text than...
Well, I'm gonna start from when it comes to winterizing your home or cottage.
Okay,
Sure.
So we'll go with that one. How about when buying a home? Are there some basic plumbing verifications?
that's
All
good.
that stuff.
That's a good one.
Perfect.
Do you advise replacing copper pipes with
That's a great question.
Is it? What's the answer?
Absolutely not.
No?
Copper, if sized and installed properly, 100 years. It'll last.
And PEX what?
There's no long-term testing on PEX. In fact, there's two kinds of plastic water piping that they used in construction during the late 90s and early 2000s.
So that they don't just hear my...
Yeah.
And early 2000s that aren't approved anymore. What ended up happening, so they're called Kitec and Poly B. And what ends up happening is that they become brittle. I walked into a house.
Well, there was a class action lawsuit.
There
right,
is.
against
There is against Kitec.
the Kitec, yes, but this was years back.
It's still, but all
Is
they're
it the
giving
same
you,
material?
it's from same manufacturer, so things are different. But there's towns in Ontario that did all of their mains in plastic water piping in the late 80s, and now they have to rip up the whole city, the whole town. It's a great example.
1,000.
But
There's another text that came in. I'll ask you that. It talks about enzymes as a drain cleaner. Levine Plumbing. What about enzymes as a drain cleaner? I
We use
understand that they
enzymes in the
eat up
country
organic
for-
debris, food, grease within the pipes. That's good
That's
for
good.
country houses
Yeah, for,
when you put
septic
it in the
tanks.
septic tanks.
okay,
But
I'm not necessarily familiar for the city.
yeah,
Because
it's slow. It's slow.
It's
active.
slow, exactly.
Okay.
It rushes through. It's not sitting there. Like for the septic tank, you flush it down and it's supposed to eat
And
away.
And especially, so you're in the country house, you let it go, you're there next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like us at the country house, we used to, every time we would leave, we would empty out all the pipes, we would pump air into it,
Yeah.
and we would
Oh,
turn off the heating.
wow.
But then it became so cumbersome to go, so we decided to leave the heating at a bare minimum.
What's the bare minimum?
I think we put it at
14.
13.
Okay.
And we don't empty out the pipes.
Yeah. How often does someone check the house?
Oh,
Well,
we're
I
there.
have
A
cameras
couple
and
of
stuff.
and stuff.
Okay. You have a low temperature
Yeah.
sensor in there too.
And we also can connect to our heating system remotely, so we can
So
always...
if it goes off, you'll get a notification.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Everything is look.
And your insurance is.
Ah.
There's some insurances. I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah?
There's some insurances that say in their policy that someone needs to be there every 2 days.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've known people who've had their claims
Rejected.
because of it.
Really?
There is a closure right after the bridge on the 50 North.
Oh,
It
that
is
is
a
so
Bonaventure
cool.
into
Yeah, so I
Turcotte.
have,
That stretch of road is
So we
off
put up the heat a couple of hours
Inside
before we
the house.
go.
So just be aware that
This is
if
my
you are
downstairs
on the
thermostat. See, it's at
Van
14.
Champlain,
Yeah.
get onto
This
the
is my
Bonaventure
upstairs
on
one.
route. It's gotten a little bit busier as well in the westbound Ville-Marie. It is slowing you down from before Rose
14.5.
Salima into
That's so cool.
Turcotte.
And
There is a closure on the westbound Ville-Marie. Well,
and then these are all the different sensors on your floor for carbon monoxide and all that stuff. So it's pretty neat.
That is very cool.
Remember as well that we have a closure on
I told Ben you're going to give him a tour of the station now.
Yeah, absolutely, of course.
You know, 235,000 people.
Absolutely.
But I have to say, I like family businesses because you know that it's not it's a job that's taken seriously. It's not some guy who decided one day to become a plumber. You know,
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a good one from Anne Marie. So Anne Marie.
Thanks, Anne Marie.
So this one, well, I'll actually ask it on the air as well. So I have a question from your favorite West Island real estate broker, Anne Marie Ashcraft. Aside from failure to have your septic tank regularly emptied, what can cause a septic tank to back up in a property? How important is it to insure against this, and what damages can it do? P.S. I love it. The real estate show brought to you by Northeast Mortgages. You can thank me later for my question of great interest.
I like this girl.
Yeah, I'm not really down with septic tank. I don't really know much about septic tank and septic tank maintenance.
I will talk to you about freaking septic tanks and the journey that I had with my septic tank. Okay.
Please don't. You're gonna say that on the air?
Yes. I'm saying it on the air because I need. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a fake seat.
Yeah, it is fake. I hate when they do that.
It's a fake seat.
It's a fake seat.
Pasta Casareccia has been bringing Italy to the people of India. Today, people come from far and wide to enjoy.
Oh, we had like a crazy.
I'm not saying anything. This is going on the air. Yeah.
Do you have use well water also, or your
well water? I would honestly say just make sure you're always cleaning out your tank properly and every
and properly inspected,
proper intervals and. So.
And it depends how many people are in the house. Also, if you're 2 people going once a month, it's not the same as 5 people going once a week.
Yeah.
You know, the amount of water that accumulates in there.
Yeah, water.
Water. I would say water.
That's nice.
Gray water.
It's not so gray. Gray comes from showers.
It's not gray. It's not gray. It's freaking
brown,
black, and brown and.
Gray comes from showers. Gray comes from sinks,
dishes,
dishwashers.
You know that the water in the Bellagio water fountain is gray water, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Good.
Filtered, but
yeah, we did. Listen, there's so much gray water that's wasted.
Yeah.
Just when Stephen Bronfman built his eco house, of course he had to demolish an entirely good new house, whatever. Fine, but when he built it, he separated his gray water. He has a way to
water the lawn.
He uses it to water the lawn. He uses it for the toilets. They also use the heating off the drains, like when you're off the shower. There's a coil that it's a heat exchanger, and it preheats the water going into the hot water tank. So it saves a little bit there also, besides the geothermal. Yeah.
They have those little units instead of a hot water tank where the water goes through, but not for cold weather.
Not for Montreal.
Yeah, maybe for Miami.
Actually, the most north that I've seen it work, that I've researched in, is Chicago.
Really?
Because, it gets...
now it's back.
Untitled Chapter and Terry Kilakos.
I love that song. Thank you, David Simon. We've got a thumbs up. Welcome back to the Real Estate Show. I'm your host, Terry Kilakos, and today we're talking with professional plumber Ben Levine about some important things we should all know when it comes to plumbing. And don't forget, you can always join the conversation by calling in with your questions at 514-790-0800 or texting in your questions to 514-800. And you can also watch and comment on Facebook Live. And we actually have a few texts that came in during the break on Facebook Live, which one just disappeared. I don't know where it is. Anyways, I'll skip that one and I'll head to this one over here. There was a power outage and my washer started giving error codes. What stands for slow draining? And when I run a test on the machine, it's not draining. So we kind of talked about this during the break. I think that for a question like that, you just got to look at your manual, go on YouTube. I'm sure that they'll give you the codes for that machine, and you'll be able to figure out exactly what the codes are. This one is for Levine Plumbing. What about enzymes as a drain cleaner? I understand they eat up organic debris, food grease within the pipes. Any opinions on that?
Enzymes are pretty good when you're talking about septic tanks. When you're talking as a drain cleaner, you need something a little bit faster acting. And like I said before, don't get drain cleaner in a bottle. But for enzymes, it's really more on the septic tanks when you're able to let it sit and work its way over time.
Okay, got it. Okay, so I found the question. Here it is. And this actually leads me to a story that I have to say, which will probably gross out a whole bunch of people. So if you're having lunch, just put your sandwiches down while I say the story. But here's the question. I have a question from your favorite West Island real estate broker, Anne-Marie Ashcraft. And I just butchered her name, but it's okay. Aside from failure to have your septic tank regularly emptied, what can cause septic tank to back up in your property? How important is it to insure against this, and what damage can it do? P.S. I love it. The Real Estate Show brought to you by Northeast Mortgages.
First of all, it is important to properly have your septic tanks cleaned out regularly. Again, depends on usage. If you have a couple who visits every month, let's say, for the weekend, as opposed to a family of 5 who goes up every weekend, as opposed to a family living there all the time and then commutes to the city. All different variables on how often properly maintaining is. In terms of what can happen if it's not properly done, Sorry, I hope no one's eating a sandwich now, but it's sewage coming back into your house. If the septic tank can't handle what you're flushing down the toilet, then there's only one place for it to go, and it's not going to be outside of the house.
All right, so here's my story, okay? So we have a country place up north, and thank God that our pipes that actually lead to a septic tank are in a separate area of the house that's not really connected. So there was no major damage. There was no damage done to the house. But basically what happened was I'm one of these people that's very diligent with my septic tank. So I clean it out every, couple of years like I'm supposed to. I put the enzymes inside. Everything that I possibly can do for my septic tank, we do it, right? And there's a couple of little quotes that you can kind of use, which I'll spare people. But anyways, so I'm very diligent. And one day, we're sitting at the house, and the toilets are not working. Actually, the toilets on the 3rd floor are working. The 2nd floor, they were working a little bit slower, and no one had gone into the 1st floor basement to see what was happening. But basically, every time someone was flushing the toilet on the 3rd floor, it was coming out in the basement on the 1st floor, which was just overflowing. So that was a little bit of a disaster, very gross. I was like, okay, so now our plumbing, we have it's blocked. So what do you do when the plumbing is blocked? You try and snake it, right? So what do? I go into the little area where the pipes go into the septic tank, and there's the, drain clean out. So I go to open the drain clean out. Oh. The drain clean out is not opening. It's jammed. So I kind of knocked the pipe a little bit. I didn't realize that there was so much pressure in this pipe. It was literally an explosion. Covered from head to toe.
Did it hit the ceiling?
It hit the ceiling. It hit the walls. It was bad. It was bad. It was one of the worst.
Was Mayrav there with you, or were you there by yourself?
She was on the floor cracking up.
Oh, good.
She was actually, luckily, she wasn't close by, so she didn't get hit by the, I don't know what I'll even call that water. But it turns out what had happened, because like I said, I'm very diligent, so there was an animal that decided to crawl into the pipe and hibernate in there.
It's warm, sure.
Yeah, so they literally went, I guess, through the septic tank. It was like a groundhog that went into it and blocked it, and that was it. Because we were going up every week or every couple of weeks, and so That you can't plan for. There's no way to plan for it.
No.
So yeah, that was
stuff happens.
Terrible story. Yeah. Anyways, okay. So here's another text message. I'm sorry if anyone was eating during that. Not so graphic, but anyways, I have a video online about it. No, just kidding. Okay, so here's another text message. There's a large banging sound coming from my pipes whenever I turn on the hot water for the shower. What can be causing this? Angelo.
Excellent question. Actually, there's a few things that could be happening. One, it could be that in homes when they used to before the code was changed, you had air chambers behind every faucet. So the way it worked is that it was an extension of the pipe that went up, and when you filled up the water, it filled up with air. So it was like almost like a cushion,
like a shock,
like a shock to avoid the shocks.
Right.
So over time, what ends up happening is that the air that's in it mixes in with the water that's sitting there, and basically they fill up with water, so you have no more cushion. So the first thing could be to empty out the water in the house and go back up. Knocking, the other thing could be, I've seen a lot of times that it's the shower faucet. A lot of times there's, I don't want to single out any brands, but there's a few brands out there like Belanger or American Standard. I believe I just singled out brands, sorry. And that has a knocking through the spooler. Also, maybe if people have an aquadisc, something like that, it knocks when there's a differential in pressure, and then you close it right away. And so that's a lot of times could be coming from there. And sometimes, surprisingly, it could be coming from the toilet with the differential in pressures in a bathroom.
Interesting. And that would happen also if it was just the hot water that he's experiencing that on with the toilet?
So if it's just the hot water and not the cold water, probably not the toilet, but it could definitely be the shower faucet.
Very cool.
And even if you're using a sink in another bathroom, and you could still hear it because the pressure drop when you open up the faucet and then you close it, still creates the same bang.
Understood. Do you recommend in a case like that they install those suppressors for the banging? Do those actually work?
Water hammer arresters?
Yeah, that's it.
First, that would be the third or fourth step.
Okay. All right. Now we'll take you to CJAD 800 AM's Traffic Center with Kira.
Well, we do have an issue right now, actually a couple of issues, and I have been mentioning them, but we are looking at slowdowns on both the westbound Ville Marie and the inbound
Sound okay, so that one we did. I'd like to say hello and thanks to our guest, Ben Levine, for the great work always done by his team at a place I work at that always call them for plumbing problems. Thanks, a great topic on your show, Dan in Montreal. Levine Plumbing.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll talk about winterizing your cottage.
You're really trying to get to it, eh?
What?
Winterizing a cottage.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's like such an important topic.
Yeah, especially at this time going into the vacation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, winterizing your home, period, because we have had twice issues, water damage due to people turning off the heating.
Yeah.
Tenants turning off the heating, so...
That story about the drain stack, that frickin' blue one?
That's not fun.
Dude, it was so bad.
Oh no, he didn't go into details, but that's
that's
I was
awesome.
covered. First of all, yeah, because I went and I got a Home Depot. I went to Home Depot. I rented like a.
Oh, you rented one of the heavy duty ones
like this
with the claw on the end.
The one that
it ripped the animal apart. Like it felt bad. I don't want to.
It was obviously not alive.
I've taken a
with
rat.
Water in it.
I've taken half of a rat actually.
Oh.
Rats are my. They're the one thing I can't handle. Rats. Even when passing a camera, I go face to face, and on the screen there's a rat looking at me. I can't handle it. Everything else, I've always. It's the one thing.
maybe just with respect to leaving to go on vacation.
Yeah, now
Like what needs to be done, because a lot of people think it's okay to just turn off their heating. They don't realize what kind of damage that could
and
cause.
especially basements, garages, crawl spaces. I mean, my neighbor across the street doesn't close off all the heating in her garage, and she has a faucet in the. It was hot water, was spraying, hitting the garage door, and then coming down. Yeah.
And we actually have a question here on Facebook as well. It actually lines up good with what we're going to be talking about. Hello guys, my parents own a cottage built in 1945. The plumbing is original. What kind of preventative analysis can we do with the plumber to make sure that the plumbing is still in good condition, both inside and outside pipes?
This is a cottage up north.
Yeah, I guess so. My parents own a cottage built in 1945. Let's ask.
Yeah, because a cottage could just be like a single floor of the basement.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so Gonzalo, is your cottage up north or is it in the city? Just an important distinction. See, it goes fast, right?
Oh, it's unreal. It's less than 10 minutes.
Yeah. Actually, there's, we go out in 57, so.
57.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just cover a couple of the texts. You might have time for one or two questions. It's crazy.
Well, you know what? Parties are more popular than doctors, eh?
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. People have so many questions.
Really?
Yeah.
4674.
The holidays are here, which means it's time to take the road home. And with the legendary performance of BMW X-Drive all-wheel drive, you'll want to enjoy that road home a little longer. Make the most of the road home with a 2018 BMW X1. Lease for rates as low as 2.9%. And enjoy a delivery credit of $1,500 plus an additional holiday credit of $1,000. Hurry into your Montreal BMW retailer. Offer ends January 2nd.
Northeast Mortgages presents The Real Estate Show with Chantal Desjardins and Terry Kilakos, live online and on CJAD 800.
The texts are just coming in. What did you say during the break? You said
at parties I'm more popular than a doctor. People are always asking me questions.
There was so many things that I wanted to say right there when you said that, but anyways, okay. We got an interesting text that came in, which kind of lines up with something that I wanted to ask you. It's from Gonzalo, and it's via Facebook, where he writes, "Hello, guys. My parents own a cottage built in 1945. The plumbing is original. What kind of preventative analysis can we do with the plumber to make sure that their plumbing is still in good condition, both inside and outside pipes?" Let's assume that it's a cottage in the city. Because we were wondering if it's a cottage up north or if it's a cottage in the city. So what would you recommend that they do preventatively, if you will?
Well, preventative, I talk about sump pumps. People need to make sure. It's one thing that you don't really think about is you go either it's in a crawl space or in a basement or the corner of your furnace room. Nobody really thinks about it until they
need it.
Until it's needed. Make sure they're working. I mean, at this time of year, it depends on the weather, the way the things freeze and then melt, and then there could be groundwater coming in, so that's pretty important. Talking about preventative, take a look to see if your water pipes are in galvanized steel or if they've been changed in the past 20 years, 30 years, I don't know. We're still seeing people that have galvanized water pipes in their homes, especially from that time. Make sure your garage pit gets cleaned out. That is one of the silly, stupid mistakes that people forget to do, and then their garage ends up flooding.
Yeah.
If water's coming in from outside underneath the garage door.
And it's something that's fairly easy to do. You know, talking about the garage drains, it always kind of upsets me because every year I have this guy that shows up at my house and he's like, "I'm here to clean your garage drain, and I'm like, I don't want you to clean my garage drain. I could clean my own garage drain. So I mean, do you suggest that people go full at it with like a snake, or just making sure that the drain is just like properly flowing and it's
just to start? Well, it's a pit first, so you bring all of the salt. Normally, I recommend people do it before the winter and after the winter.
Sure.
During the winter, you bring all the salt from your car, all the snow and ice that melts off. So it's full of sand and salt at the bottom of the pit. It's great. I like to use a little army shovel just because it could get into the corners really nicely.
Right.
And just throw it into good quality or double bagged garbage bags and make sure that everything's flowing.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get into winterizing your cottage or your home. We don't have a lot of time left on the show. Like I said, there was a lot of text that came in. But what advice do you give to our listeners, to avoid kind of pipes freezing or bursting in the winter, especially when we're talking about cottages up north?
So so you brought up like 3 points in there, Terry. Thanks. With not a lot of time left, and it's right before holiday season and people are going away, so let's go up to the cottages up north. Best way to protect and to make sure that everything is safe is really empty out the pipes if you're not going to be there for a while, blow them out with compressed air, and make sure you put some sort of plumber's antifreeze in the tanks and the bowls and every trap that you have. So floor drains, sinks, toilets, bathtubs. That's one way. Another way, I've seen a really nifty feature where people are connected into their country homes with their cell phone. So you could keep track of the temperature. You could keep track of where your heating is at that point. And they make automatic water shutoffs, actually, that there's a lot of insurance companies are asking people to install in their homes with sensors around the house. In case there's any leak, it'll shut the water off to the whole house. So those are options for the cottage. For people who are leaving their house for vacation time in the next week or so, highly, highly, highly recommend to not shut your heating off and not lower it down to 4 degrees or 5 degrees. I recommend always the bare minimum is 16. This way, if the power goes out, you have a little bit of a buffer, a couple of days until it gets to freezing temperature. Also, check your insurance policies. This is something I recommend to all of my clients. Make sure that there are some policies that you need someone to check the house every 48 hours. And insurance companies are very good at making sure that happens. Heating goes off. Also, if you're going away, it's going to be minus 40. Have someone come every day when it's really cold. Open up the cabinets for the sinks. This way, let the hot air in to make sure nothing freezes. Always one of the stupidest things that people do, and it happens every year. We get 3 or 4 calls. They left the garage door open.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Or they turn the heating off in the garage. So there are certain spaces where people think I could save some money. The garage, the basement, the crawl space. Either there's plumbing that runs through it, over it, under it, around it, or you're just cooling down your house. It's not worth it.
Absolutely. Well, Ben, we're quickly running out of real estate. If people want to get a hold of you, how could they do that?
Few ways. Check out our Facebook page. It's Levine Bros Plumbing. Our website is levinebros.ca, or give us a shout at the office. Could I say the phone number?
Of course, okay. Yeah, absolutely.
514-849-1368. And we have people waiting around, waiting to help anybody out. That's really the way we work. It's not about making a sale. It's about helping people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? A lot of the text that came in is just a testament of the work that you do, because everyone's just like, great plumbers, love these guys, family business, just amazing. And the real estate show is actually going to be off the air for a little while. I think we're back on, is it the 22nd? I'm looking over the 20th. The 20th. There you go. So we're going to be off for the holidays. We're going to be back on the air as of January 20th. So I wish everyone a happy New Year. Merry Christmas. I hope you guys have a safe holiday season. If anyone wants to get a hold of us at the office, by all means, you can call us at 514-680-4674. See you next year, everyone.
Ben, you want to take it away?
Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the questions. Thank you. This went very quickly, and always fun to discuss the company and plumbing and just helping people take care.
Very cool. Guys, I wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, everything that you celebrate. I hope that you guys all have a happy, safe, and prosperous New Year. I wish everyone all the best. Love you guys. Thank you for watching our show. Thank you for listening. See you next year. Bye.